Question 66.17. Questioner: I assumed that the reason for assuming the distortions appropriate would be that these distortions will aid the entity in its reaching its ultimate objective, which is a movement along the path of evolution into desired polarity. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct. Question 66.18. Questioner: Then an entity who becomes aware of his polarization with respect to service to others might find a paradoxical situation in the case where it was unable to fully serve because of distortions chosen to reach the understanding it has reached. At this point it would seem that the entity who was aware of the mechanism might, through meditation, understand the necessary mental configuration for alleviating the physical distortions so that it could be of greater service to others. At this particular nexus, am I correct in this thinking? Answer: I am Ra. You are correct, although we might note that there are often complex reasons for the programming of a distorted physical complex pattern. In any case, meditation is always an aid to knowing the self. Question 66.19. Questioner: Is a vertical positioning of the spine useful or helpful in the meditative procedure? Answer: I am Ra. It is somewhat helpful. Question 66.20. Questioner: Would you please list the polarities within the body which are related to the balancing of the energy centers of the various bodies of the unmanifested entity? Answer: I am Ra. In this question there lies a great deal of thought which we appreciate. It is possible that the question itself may serve to aid meditations upon this particular subject. Each unmanifested self is unique. The basic polarities have to do with the balanced vibratory rates and relationships between the first three energy centers and, to a lesser extent, each of the other energy centers. May we answer more specifically? Question 66.21. Questioner: Possibly in the next session we will expand on that. I would like to ask the second question. What are the structure and contents of the archetypical mind, and how does the archetypical mind function in informing the intuition and conscious mind of an individual mind, body, spirit complex? Answer: I am Ra. You must realize that we offered these concepts to you so that you might grow in your own knowledge of the self through the consideration of them. We would prefer, especially for this latter query, to listen to the observations upon this subject which the student of these exercises may make and then suggest further avenues of the refinement to these inquiries. We feel we might be of more aid in this way. Question 66.22. Questioner: You mentioned that an energizing spiral is emitted from the top of any pyramid and that you could benefit by placing this under the head for a period of 30 minutes or less. Can you tell me how this third spiral is helpful and what help it gives the entity who is receiving it? Answer: I am Ra. There are substances which you may ingest which cause the physical vehicle to experience distortions towards an increase of energy. These substances are crude, working rather roughly upon the body complex, increasing the flow of adrenaline. The vibration offered by the energizing spiral of the pyramid is such that each cell, both in space-time and in time-space, is charged as if hooked to your electricity. The keenness of mind, the physical and sexual energy of body, and the attunement of will of spirit are all touched by this energizing influence. It may be used in any of these ways. It is possible to overcharge a battery, and this is the cause of our cautioning any who use such pyramidal energies to remove the pyramid after a charge has been received. Question 66.23. Questioner: Is there a best material or an optimal size for this small pyramid to go beneath the head? Answer: I am Ra. Given that the proportions are such as to develop the spirals in the Giza pyramid, the most appropriate size for use beneath the head is an overall height small enough to make placing it under the cushion of the head a comfortable thing. Question 66.24. Questioner: There's no best material. Answer: I am Ra. There are better materials which are, in your system of butter, quite dear. They are not that much better than substances which we have mentioned before. The only incorrect substances would be the baser metals. Question 66.25. Questioner: You mentioned the problems with the action in the king's chamber of the Giza-type pyramid. I am assuming if we use the same geometrical configuration that is used in the pyramid at Giza, this would be perfectly alright for the pyramid placed beneath the head, since we wouldn't be using the king's chamber radiations but only the third spiral from the top. And I'm also asking if it would be better to use a 60 degrees apex angle than the larger apex angle. Would it provide a better energy source? Answer: I am Ra. For energy through the apex angle, the Giza pyramid offers an excellent model. Simply be sure the pyramid is so small that there is no entity small enough to crawl inside it. Question 66.26. Questioner: I assume that this energy then, this spiraling light energy, is somehow absorbed by the energy field of the body. Is this somehow connected to the indigo energy center? Am I correct in this guess? Answer: I am Ra. This is incorrect. The properties of this energy are such as to move within the field of the physical complex and irradiate each cell of the space-time body and, as this is done, irradiate also the time-space equivalent, which is closely aligned with the space-time yellow ray body. This is not a function of the etheric body or of free will. This is irradiation much like your sun's rays. Thus it should be used with care. Question 66.27. Questioner: how many applications of 30 minutes or less during a diurnal time period would be appropriate? Answer: I am Ra. In most cases, no more than one. In a few cases, especially where the energy will be used for spiritual work, experimentation with too short periods might be possible, but any feeling of sudden weariness would be a sure sign that the entity had been overradiated. Question 66.28. Questioner: can this energy help in any way as far as healing of physical distortions? Answer: I am Ra. There is no application for direct healing using this energy, although, if used in conjunction with meditation, it may offer to a certain percentage of entities summated in meditation. In most cases it is most helpful in alleviating weariness and in the stimulation of physical or sexual activity. Question 66.29. Questioner: in the transition from third to fourth density we have two other possibilities other than the type that we are experiencing now. We have the possibility of a totally positively polarized harvest and the possibility of a totally negatively polarized harvest that I understand have occurred elsewhere in the universe many times. When there is a totally negatively polarized harvest, the whole planet that is negatively polarized makes the transition from third to fourth density. Does the planet have the experience of the distortion of disease that this planet now experiences prior to the transition? Answer: I am Ra. You are perceptive. The negative harvest is one of intense disharmony and the planet will express this. Question 66.30. Questioner: the planet has a certain set of conditions in late third density, and then the conditions are different in early fourth density. Could you give me an example of a negatively polarized planet and the conditions in late third density and early fourth density so that I can see how they change? Answer: I am Ra. The vibrations from third to fourth density change on a negatively oriented planet precisely as they do upon a positively oriented planet. With fourth density negative comes many abilities and possibilities of which you are familiar. The fourth density is more dense and it is far more difficult to hide the true vibrations of the mind, body, spirit complex. This enables fourth density negatives, as well as positives, the chance to form social memory complexes. It enables negatively oriented entities the opportunity for a different set of parameters with which to show their power over others and to be of service to the self. The conditions are the same as far as the vibrations are concerned. Question 66.31. Questioner: I was concerned about the amount of physical distortions, disease, and that sort of thing in third density negative just before harvesting and in fourth density negative just after harvesting or in transition. What are the conditions of the physical problems, disease, etc. in late third density negative? Answer: I am Ra. Each planetary experience is unique. The problems, shall we say, of bellicose actions are more likely to be of pressing concern to late third density negative entities than the Earth's reactions to negativity of the planetary mind, for it is often by such warlike attitudes on a global scale that the necessary negative polarization is achieved. As fourth density occurs, there is a new planet and new physical vehicle system gradually expressing itself, and the parameters of bellicose actions become those of thought rather than manifested weapons. Question 66.32. Questioner: well then, is physical disease and illness as we know it on this planet rather widespread on a third density negative planet before harvest into fourth density negative? Answer: I am Ra. Physical complex distortions of which you speak are likely to be less found as fourth density negative begins to be a probable choice of harvest due to the extreme interest in the self which characterizes the harvestable third density negative entity. Much more care is taken of the physical body, as well as much more discipline being offered to the self mentally. This is an orientation of great self-interest and self-discipline. There are still instances of the types of disease which are associated with the mind complex distortions of negative emotions such as anger. However, in an harvestable entity, these emotional distortions are much more likely to be used as catalyst in an expressive and destructive sense as regards the object of anger. Question 66.33. Questioner: I am trying to understand the way that disease and bodily distortions are generated with respect to polarities, both positive and negative. It seems that they are generated in some way to create the split of polarization, that they have a function in creating the original polarization that occurs in third density. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is not precisely correct. Distortions of the bodily or mental complex are those distortions found in beings which have need of experiences which aid in polarization. These polarizations may be those of entities which have already chosen the path or polarization to be followed. It is more likely for positively oriented individuals to be experiencing distortions within the physical complex due to the lack of consuming interest in the self and the emphasis on service to others. Moreover, in an unpolarized entity, catalyst of the physical distortion nature will be generated at random. The hopeful result is, as you say, the original choice of polarity. Oftentimes this choice is not made, but the catalyst continues to be generated. In the negatively oriented individual, the physical body is likely to be the more carefully tended and the mind disciplined against physical distortion. Question 66.34. Questioner: this planet, to me, seems to be what I would call a cesspool of distortions. This includes all diseases and malfunctions of the physical body in general. It would seem to me that, on the average, this planet would be very, very high on the list if we just took the overall amount of these problems. Am I correct in this assumption? Answer: I am Ra. We will review previous material. Catalyst is offered to the entity. If it is not used by the mind complex, it will then filter through to the body complex and manifest as some form of physical distortion. The more efficient the use of catalyst, the less physical distortion to be found. There are, in the case of those you call wanderers, not only a congenital difficulty in dealing with the third density vibratory patterns, but also a recollection, however dim, that these distortions are not necessary or usual in the home vibration. We overgeneralize as always, for there are many cases of pre-incarnative decisions which result in physical or mental limitations and distortions, but we feel that you are addressing the question of widespread distortions towards misery of one form or another. Indeed, on some third-density planetary spheres, catalyst has been used more efficiently. In the case of your planetary sphere, there is much inefficient use of catalyst and, therefore, much physical distortion. We have enough energy available for one query at this time. Question 66.35. Questioner: then I would ask if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact. Answer: I am Ra. Continue as always in love. All is well. You are conscientious. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.